M. Fletcher Brown with another artist video blog right here, Kicks 96. And for the first time this year, when the year's new, we're just into January, we've got our first guest, and he's a big one. All right. You might remember from the 2020 season 19 of The Voice, Team Blake. Please welcome for his first visit to Kicks 96, Ian Flanigan. How are you, Ian?
Good morning. Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, this is huge. This is big. All right. Now, you came out real big on The Voice. You were like third.
Yeah.
You were Team Blake. And then you went on after that to actually cut a single with Blake.
I did, yeah.
Right. You might remember the song Grown Ups right here. We played it here at Kicks. All right. Him and Blake Shelton. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to know Ian Flanigan right now. Okay. Let's start with you were born.
I was definitely born one day.
Well, he was born. You were born in New York.
I was,
but I'm not going to deign to try to pronounce the name of your hometown.
Okay, so I'm from a town called Saugerties. We're basically in the same exact township as Woodstock. So we're up there, a couple hours into New York, upstate.
Okay, so upstate New York.
Yeah.
So like a lot of farm country up there.
Oh yeah, it's like, it's I love the South because it's I live in North Tennessee now. It's the same kind of landscape, except we have like 8 months of winter.
See, people don't really know that. They think New York, they think New York City, but that's like one of the most metropolitan places in the entire state. Most of the state is rural. I mean, I'm from the Midwest originally.
Yeah.
A lot of folks, when I tell them Michigan, they think Detroit, but I'm like, yeah, but
there's a lot to Michigan.
There's a lot of like, country, farm country out there. So talk to us a little bit about like, the early days, Ian Flanigan. You've actually been playing and writing since you were about what, 10, 11 years old?
Yeah, no, I've been writing since I was a kid. It's basically been the main thing I've been trying to do my whole life. My mom and I used to write songs when I was a kid. Growing up right in Woodstock, I think I was about 4 miles from the Midnight Ramble for Levon Helm's concert series. So the band, Americana, country, like Bob Dylan and folk music was just like really present in my life. But mostly the thing was, it wasn't uncommon to pursue being like a writer or an artist up there. So I've just been pursuing it. Always thought it was a good career path. My parents always encouraged me to play music and just have fun with it.
Now you've actually got basically what we would call like a traditional, music story, a country rock and roll story. It's like, you grew up, playing and singing, you turned down a dark road, you flipped that, you came back and you got yourself, you got your ship straight, and you started a family.
Well, my life has been a whirlwind, like anybody's has. It's I'm always grateful for the hardest times of my life because it makes me appreciate the good stuff. But when I was about 17, turning 18, I moved down to Orlando, Florida, and I started gigging in dive bars. And if you've been to Orlando, it's a lot of cool clubs and everything, but you don't really get paid very well back then. This is like 2008. So I used to get paid. We all get paid in booze. So we'd play and just get kind of like pictures and shots or whatever. And when you're that age, that's like kind of a really cool thing to happen. But after a certain amount of years of playing dive bars, you don't really have a good grasp on like normal living. So I was traveling the country since I was 17, 18, 19, 20, and found my way to Colorado. I was playing in a bluegrass band out there. And at that time, I had my stuff pretty good again. I was living with some good people. And I was doing an apprenticeship. I lived with a man named Tom Thornburg out there from a band called Fireweed, and he was teaching me how to build acoustic guitars. So I lived with him and apprenticed under him for about a year. And after that, I got back on the road, went back to Woodstock, started gigging again. And, really it just falls into these kind of bad habits of getting paid in alcohol your whole life,
I don't know anything about that.
Well, I know. No, but, that's what happens. It's pretty common. And just found myself on a really, really bad path. I ended up checking myself into a rehab after a series of unfortunate events. And, basically got sober a few different times in my life. Went and lived down in Soperton, Georgia for a year, wrote a record. I never had a good plan. but music has always been the guiding force in my life, whether it brought me down a darker road or brought me back to the good.
It always seems to kind of circle back, to the music. And you draw on these experiences, obviously, in your songwriting and
always.
And even in your sound. I mean, there's you can hear, if you listen to Ian Flanigan long enough, you'll actually hear that lived kind of energy.
Oh, thank you.
In listening to his singing voice. So you and your wife, I think you guys basically like tour around.
Well,
at least you did.
We did. I'll just save you from any awkwardness in the future. We've since separated.
Oh, okay.
So they're doing their own thing these days. But we came up together in a small town. Sorgerty's, it's like it's very much like Muscle Shoals. You know, like being down here. I was just telling my manager yesterday, I was like, it's just kind of like home. You know, you got a couple roads and then just a bunch of land. But we got together years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. I'd gotten sober, met her. She had a beautiful daughter at the time that was 2 years old. And we didn't really have any money or anything. So we started doing these concert series together, trying to help artists in my career too. And like I was telling you earlier, the winters in New York, especially upstate New York, it's just all the gigs are gone. You have to wait till spring, pick up different jobs. And one year she had gotten into a car accident and she had to have 2 spinal fusion surgeries. So during that whole healing process, which is long, you know, we just kind of had to flip our script on how we're going to survive as a family or just in general as artists. She's an artist, I was an artist. And we decided to sell everything we owned. And we bought this 24-foot Winnebago from a guy named Frank in Pennsylvania. And the whole town came to our yard sale. We sold a car, bunch of clothes, some instruments, and we literally packed up and headed to Arizona before the winter. And we basically had a plan of live out of the van. And I had been touring as a songwriter in Texas and all that stuff for a couple of years. So we had a couple checkpoint home bases, but the goal was post the RV up at state parks or campgrounds where I could work for free stay. So I would work as like a tour guide, some spots, be a maintenance man. And I towed a Honda Accord, which had a PA behind us. So up to 400 miles around where we were going to stay, I would drive out and do shows. And that was the model. And I was going to do that basically till the day I died. So
man, that's an amazing story. It's like you bought an RV from a dude named Frank, and just when your family just hit the road.
I love you, man.
You know, basically, you know, playing and making money and getting by and surviving and making new stories.
Yes.
And somehow all of this led you to The Voice. So how was that like your friends and family going, hey, Ian, you should do this? Or was this just something that occurred to you? I'm gonna try that.
You know, so quick backstory with that is like I'm a baritone. My voice is much lower than the typical tenor you hear on radio sometimes. In country, there's a lot of baritones, which is nice. But I was never going to try out for that or American Idol or anything. I was a songwriter, and I had never even done a cover song up until the year of The Voice. So
really?
My managers dragged me out to karaoke here last night. And it's just like none of these songs are in my register. All radio songs are so high, I just don't sing them. So I did my own thing. But I had been doing Kerrville Folk Festival in Texas a while for just a songwriter festival. But I got to meet a guy's manager, and that guy was I'm blanking. But I got to go out to play a show at Austin City Limits in Texas when we were on our tour, and we were just kind of living. I had gigs. Ayla, my fiance at the time, we were booking them together. We were homeschooling the kid on the road, had no plans of like trying for any TV stuff. We were just very much grassroots, independent artist grind every day. And Bob Schneider is an artist in Texas, in Austin. He saw one of my videos. I had met one of his managers at a folk festival. They called me up to be a guest. We had the highest high of independent artists. You know, like you're living in a van, you get to go play 2,000 people, you feel like you're going to survive for a minute. And that's like a really beautiful breath of fresh air. Our next stop was to work at this campground called Texas Tea in Lewisburg, Tennessee, probably about an hour north of here. I go there, we start doing the maintenance job, everything's fine. Tornado hits 5 days later in East Nashville. This is February 20-something. And soon after that, COVID is just running rampant. So all of my gigs from February to August of that year were emailing me daily, like just canceled, sorry, we got to reschedule. My last show was probably about a month into this stay, and I got down to having $80, you know, and we've had a lot of hard times before, so it's whatever, it's just money, you're gonna make it back. But with COVID, there was nothing coming. and the work that we had was for a free stay. It wasn't for income or food or anything. So, you feel bad raising your kid and just feeding them like eggs every day, all day. But my last gig was an open mic, and it didn't even pay. And to get from Lewisburg up to Nashville, it's about an hour. So that means 2 hours of driving. I wasn't even going to spend the gas money to do it. But that open mic actually was like a auditioning thing for The Voice.
Wow.
So I
You didn't even know.
I didn't know what I was doing. So I go and I go play the open mic with the house band. You got to submit a video because Nashville's different. Nashville's a whole different vibe than like the rest of the country or what I'm used to. Submitted a video. It was like themed, and played 3 songs, I think, with the band. I got my kid in the green room at this bar at like 11:30 at night, and we packing up, and one of the guys comes up and he says, "Hey man, we've been really liked your videos, and we'd like to see if you want to be an alternate for this season on The Voice." And I was like, man, I just lost every job I had for a year. I would love to. And that process looks pretty much like, go back to your house or wherever you're staying, make a video and just be like, "Hey, I'm Ian. I'm living in this, camper, and we're just rolling around the country." Submitted that, and about 2 months later, I was in California. I forget where they do it. Burbank. I was in Burbank, California, and I stayed there pretty much for 6 months doing the whole show. So it was nuts, man. It's a long story because I didn't really audition, in a typical way. So,
all right. So you ended up on Team Blake.
yeah.
And I'm guessing that you impressed him because
I was just like, you're playing your song. I only had one turn. It was Blake. So you're playing your songs about 2 minutes. And I think he hit his button at the last like 2 seconds of the song. So I didn't even expect anybody to turn, because halfway through it, you're just like, well, okay, it was a good time. But he did, he turned around, man.
And after you were done on the show, he joined you on a single.
He did.
How'd that happen?
Man, so believe me, I had my bags packed. Anybody that's listening, I had my bags packed every night I was going to perform. Because one, when you get kicked off a show like that, you don't like wake up, have breakfast, and like say your goodbyes casually. Like you're out at 5 a.m, and I don't like to pack early. So I didn't expect to get as far as I did. But after getting third on the finale, I got a call from Reviver Entertainment Group, which is now my record label. But David Ross called me up and was interested in doing a single after the show. So get together with him. We're going through singles in Nashville. I don't even remember where I was actually living at that time. I think I was back living in Texas. And go down to Nashville to pick some songs and work on some stuff. We ended up choosing a song called Grow Up. We ran that one, I think 2 others over to Blake just to kind of get his insight and just be like, what do you think about this stuff? Because at that point, he's been a huge part of my music career. And he said, man, I love this Grow Up song. What do you think if I jump on it with you? And was kind enough to feature on it, man. He's that casually awesome. It's not like, it's just things where you're just like, well, damn, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think 2 weeks later, we were in the studio, Craig Alvin, Todd Lombardo, and cut it over at Addiction Sound in Nashville, and met Blake over at Starstruck on one of his routes, which, meeting up with somebody like Blake is difficult because it's just scheduling. He might be on like a plane now. I don't know where he is, but he came through, gave us about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, hung out with us at Starstruck, cut the song, and a couple weeks later, we were performing it on the finale of The Voice.
It's
crazy.
It's
man.
like it's one great story after another.
It's just, I'm always like, sometimes I just take a minute. I'm like, I don't know how this is happening.
Now you've got your first studio EP that's out, Strong.
Yep.
All right. Last Name on It. That's the current
Last
single.
Name on It's the current single.
And you recorded, now is that recorded here in the Shoals area where because I know that you're working on some
No,
studio
I'm down
work
here right now recording in the Shoals at Noble Speed Studios. We recorded that all at my brain is always never good, but we recorded at many beautiful places.
Nice save.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yes.
No, many beautiful places, many great. The thing is, I actually recorded with a few different producers on this. That's what threw me off. I recorded with Craig Alvin and Todd Lombardo on the bulk of the record for 3 of those songs on the record, I worked with Obi O'Brien and Phil Niccolo. Obi's been Bon Jovi's engineer for like 30 years. He's an amazing, awesome guy. I went and stayed with him actually up in Nottingham, Pennsylvania, and cut 3 of the tracks. And then the newest single, Last Name on It, I wrote that with Ryan Rossabo and Barrett Baber. We're just super talented dudes in Nashville. And we actually recorded it the day we wrote it at Ryan's studio in Nashville. And that's what we're listening to now. Craig mixed it, and that's kind of just how it goes, man. It's like, make music, put it out. It happens fast sometimes.
Well, I love the fact that your musical journey has brought you here to the Shoals area.
Oh, thank you, man. Me too.
I love that you get to hang out here and soak up, the musical culture of this area. Because as it said, earlier before we were talking, is like, this place is different.
It's different.
It's
different. Coming from like a small art community town, I love feeling that vibe where it's very heavily artists lived here. Like there's a lot of talented people, a lot of just creative minds, a lot of love going on. It's a really beautiful town. All
right. Well, talk to us about the single, Last Name on It. That's one that you wrote. Yep. So what's that song about?
So Last Name on It is just really a love song. It's about getting married, getting engaged, anybody that you're with. The 3 of us at the time, we were all engaged or married. And it always helps your life to write a love song for your woman back home, in case it just you'll have a better day. So it's one of those. It's
your standard love song, and it's good. All right. The vocals are great, by the way. It's like everybody always comments on your vocals, and like the word smoky is always thrown around and everything. I always think of it when I listen to you, I think more bluesy. So I mean, I have a blues background myself, so I like blues music. I'm like, that's a good, like bluesy, I think, voice. I think you could probably rock a blues record.
I do love the blues, man. I think it's all, I feel like, especially singers, it's really just about finding your sound and whatever that is.
Absolutely. Well, if you like Ian Flanigan, in which if you haven't heard him yet, I promise you're going to like Ian Flanigan. You're going to want to look for him on his socials. He is at, at Twitter, he is at Ian Flanigan. On YouTube is at Ian Flanigan. On Instagram and TikTok, it's at _ Ian Flanigan.
Yep.
All right. And your website?
IanFlaniganmusic.com.
All right. So we're going to get him to play a song for us live here in just a second. But I want to say, Ian, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come visit us.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
And you know what? Since you're working here in the Shoals, you come by and you hang out here whenever you want.
I appreciate it.
We're usually just sitting around here bored anyway.
Hey, man, I'll come by anytime. It's a great spot.
We got guitars all over the wall. So it's like,
it's about 100.
It's like we are definitely a musicians radio station.
Yes, for sure.
Right, well, thank you for being here. We're going to hear Ian Flanigan live here in just a second. And I want to say thank you for joining us on our first artist video blog of 2023. We'll see you next time. Another artist video blog at kicks96country.com.
Forever till we change one thing. 'Cause your name from the day I heard it, one word away from perfect. But girl, if I